Okay, all my work is done. There's nothing I need to make videos on tonight, so I can just sit back, relax, and watch the new episode of... What the hell was that? Where did I go just now? I was about to watch the new episode of Gen V, and then I just... Wait a minute. Loki Season 2 started today. I didn't hear anything about that at all. And I'm not going to watch it now. Not with Gen V Episode 4 all queued up in my... Oh my god, that episode was messed up. Wish I could go back in time again and stop myself from watching that. That was nightmare fuel for days. And I just need to... Nope. Weeks. I'll have nightmares for weeks. That'll be a lot of fun. And to top it off, now I have to do a video on Loki? Or do I? If I'm time-slipping between the future and the past, maybe I can just travel to the future when I've already finished the video. That way I won't have to make it. And here we go. Crap. Loki Season 2. Man, that really snuck up on us, didn't it? I hadn't heard a thing about this. I mean, I knew Season 2 was coming, but I hadn't seen a trailer or any hype from Marvel at all. Isn't that weird? Maybe the SAG-AFTRA strike prevented it, but Loki was, I think, Marvel's biggest streaming show. People actually watched that one, so you'd think they'd be able to do something to promote it. Whatever. Who knows what's going on there? Anyway, I liked Season 1 for the most part. I know a lot of people had issues with it. I appreciate the reasons why. I wouldn't even necessarily argue with all of them. But I still liked a lot of the ideas and concepts they were playing around with. And the production team was definitely really ambitious and tried to make the show very visually interesting. Was it perfect? No. But I thought there was good stuff in it. But, while I did enjoy most of Loki Season 1, with a story that's all about time travel and alternate universes, there was always potential for this show to go completely off the rails in a big fucking hurry. The warning signs were always there, and let's face it, once you've introduced time travel... I mean, that's a really big can of worms. It's something very few writers are able to handle properly, and I have zero faith that the current crop of Marvel writers can pull it off. And now that we're watching it unfold and seeing what they're doing with it, I think Marvel is going to deeply regret opening that can, especially with all the multiverse crap they're doing on top of it. But that's for later. For right now, Season 1 ended with Loki finding out that if he banged the female version of himself, it would destroy all of reality or something, and then female Loki, Sylvie, low she if you're nasty, killed He Who Remains, which somehow created a million other variants of him, one of them being Kang from Quantumania, and all of them apparently being really bad. Then Sylvie f***ed off to somewhere else, and Loki wound up in some alternate timeline or universe, which is ruled over by Kang the Conqueror, but after Quantumania, he's dead now, so... I'm not sure how relevant any of that is. So Season 2 begins with Loki getting chased by Owen Wilson and a bunch of TVA goons. I didn't remember any of these people's names. And Owen Wilson... Mobius doesn't remember Loki, so this is either a different universe where they've never met, or it's in the past before they met. Both options are on the table. I'm already very confused, and that's not gonna stop anytime soon. Loki escapes by pulling an Anakin Skywalker and jumping out the window, hitching a ride on a flying car, which then crashes through a different window. Say what you want about this show, but this all looked pretty cool. There's a big crack in the floor now from the crash. Loki sees a dude named Casey, who he knows but who doesn't doesn't remember him. I didn't remember this guy either. Then Loki disappears, then reappears in the same room, but in a different time. There's gonna be a lot of that going on, so buckle up. Casey is still there, and he remembers Loki now. Also, the crack in the floor has been there as long as he can remember, so that means that Loki was just in the past. Why? How? They're not concerned with questions like that at the moment. Then Loki disappears again. You might as well just make a drinking game out of it. And frankly, the episode might make more sense if you're drunk anyway. Cut to Mobius and what's-her-face, B-15, I think, discussing all these new branching realities. And B-15 thinks they should tell everyone at the TVA the truth, that everything they ever believed is wrong, their gods are bullshit, and their entire life is a lie. But Mobius is thinking that maybe we should just stick a pin in that for right now. You know, until we figure out exactly how thoroughly the multiverse has just been sodomized into oblivion. We've really got a case of the Mondays here, one crisis at a time, okay? Then Casey walks in and tells them about Loki appearing and then disappearing. There's a lot of that in this episode. Big chunks of it are just characters talking about what just happened, talking about what is about to happen, or talking about what is currently happening. And you'd think all that would help make this less confusing, but it really doesn't. And your patience for it will largely depend on which actors are doing all the talking. Another guy comes in, X5, I completely forgot who he was, and he asks Mobius about jet skis. Then when Mobius starts talking about jet skis, he says he doesn't care about jet skis. Not sure why we needed that, but the writers thought we did, for some reason. Then he says that Mobius and B-15 have been summoned to meet the new Judges Council in the War Room. I don't remember what that is either, but at least something's happening. The second they're out the door, Loki appears again. Casey tells him where his buddies went. Then we've got Mobius and B-15 walking down a hallway with Loki reappearing and disappearing right behind them, desperately trying to get their attention. If it's a drinking game, you'd already be completely wasted at the 9-minute mark. Loki ends up in the War Room in the past, and it has a big Kang face carved all over the wall, which in the War Room of the present is not there. In the present War Room, the Council is playing audio of Loki talking about how the TVA abducted people from the sacred timeline and erased their memories and blah blah blah, and also they've got one of the heads of those timekeeper gods that turned out to be robot fakes, and they're like, WTF, make this make sense. What a coincidence. That's exactly what I was thinking for the entire episode. After a lot of talking, B-15 convinces the lead judge that they have to stop pruning the other timelines because that involves the murdering of countless innocent people. The judge had to think about it for a minute. Then Loki appears again and destroys the newer wall to reveal all the Kang faces on the older wall behind it, like, that's the real bad guy, he built this place, he stole your lives, he's the one f***ing our shit up, be afraid, be very afraid. And this could have been good build-up for Kang, I guess, but again, that version of Kang is already dead. He got taken out by Ant-Man and Wasp, so I'm not sure what we're doing here. This would have made a lot more sense if it were taking place before Quantumania. Maybe it was supposed to at one point, who knows, but it didn't. And sorry, Marvel, but that ain't my problem. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here, but the one thing they agree on is that Sylvie really put them up shit creek. Sylvie is at the center of all this. Sylvie is the one they need to find. Sylvie is the most important thing right now. Okay, one would think that the most important thing should be Loki, given that the show is called Loki, but maybe I'm just being wrong-headed about this. Then we get a few minutes of Loki expositing the events of the season 1 finale to Mobius and explaining how preserving the sacred timeline was really always about preventing the creation of 1 million Kang variants who would start a multiversal war. And also, Loki is randomly shifting back and forth between the present and the past, which should be impossible in the TVA, but for some reason isn't, and they don't know why. They beat that drum more than a few times here. So before they can deal with that imminent war thing, first they need to stop Loki from disappearing into the past every time a butterfly flaps its wings. And there's only one person who's smart enough to solve a problem like that: Data from the Goonies. Makes more sense than anything else in the episode so far. He's the TVA's resident repair guy or something, and this whole scene really feels like it's the writers going, look everybody, it's Ke Huy Quan. Remember when he won that Oscar? Remember when he was in that multiverse movie that won Best Picture? Remember? Here he is! Yeah, sarcasm aside, this is the kind of stunt casting that works. This was actually cool casting, and he's very good here. His job is mostly to explain batshit things that make no sense, but he does it in an entertaining way. There's some idle chit-chat regarding some confusion about the last time he and Mobius saw each other. Not sure why we needed that either. Then Loki disappears again, and Ouroboros, who Mobius calls OB, because God help you remember that one, recognizes this phenomenon even though it's impossible in the TVA, and he has no idea how to stop it. Thanks, Short Round. You were really worth the trip. Loki reappears several hundred years in the past and tells past OB that several hundred years in your future, which is my present, me and present Mobius, which to you is future Mobius, are going to come in here trying to fix the problem of me time-slipping between my present, which is your future, and your present, which is my past, which is impossible even though it isn't. And I need past you, which to you is present you, to invent a gadget that will stop this from happening, and then just keep it at the ready for a millennium, give or take a few centuries, so present you, which to you is future you, and present Mobius can stop present me from disappearing from the present, which to you is the future, and reappearing in your present, which is my past, to get help from past you, which to you is the present. I fucking hate time travel stories, I swear to God. So, as Loki and past OB are going over all this and building the gadget that Loki needs, present OB's memories are changing in real time, even though, according to Avengers Endgame, that's not how time travel works.
Changing the past doesn't change the future.
So, what, we're just forgetting about that now? Well, I guess it wouldn't be the first time they changed the rules on us.
Can open, worms everywhere.
And after explaining another 3 or 4 fucking times how time-slipping in the TVA is impossible, even though it isn't, suddenly present OB is like, wait a damn minute, I just remembered. I actually invented a science machine in my former present, which is now the past, to stop that impossible thing from happening if it ever happened to be possible in the future, which is now the present. Okay. I'm glad we cleared all that up. Now, to use this thing, they have to go to the temporal loom, whatever the f that is, and good news, bad news, it should solve the problem of Loki possibly/impossibly time-slipping, but it involves Loki being pruned, and also there's a good chance that Mobius will have all of his skin ripped off. In a different project, that would be dark as f and weirdly sexual, but here it's played for comedy. Marvel has gotten so damn weird. What makes this work, though, is how utterly incredulous Loki acts about the whole thing. The writers are well aware of how batshit this situation is, and Loki treating it as such kind of helps you accept it in a weird way. If they weren't self-aware about that, and if the actors weren't as good as they are, this would all be utter nonsense, but some way, don't ask me how, it just sort of works despite itself. I suspect that's gonna be a recurring theme this season. Then Loki disappears from the past, reappears in the present, most of the audience will be dead from alcohol poisoning by now, and OB's lamp starts flickering due to power surges in the TVA, which is a really bad thing. For some reason. There's more walking and talking and expositing. Apparently the temporal loom is where raw time is refined into the physical timeline, whatever the shit that means, but it wasn't built to handle all these different branching realities, so it's overloading. I had to rewatch this a couple times and I was still barely following along with it, but admittedly it does look really cool. Marvel's VFX have taken some deserved criticism lately, but they didn't skimp on this. So Mobius will need to go outside right up to that infinite mass of time and launch the science machine so Loki can prune himself, not like that, grow up, and then get back inside so OB can close the blast doors to protect the TVA and all the branching realities from however the raw time is going to react to Loki yanking himself out of it, which he has to do very quickly or else Loki will be lost in time forever and Mobius will have all of his skin ripped off. It couldn't be simpler. You got all that? No? Well, neither does Mobius. He's a little preoccupied with that all my skin getting ripped off thing. I mean, Frank Cotton might make for a badass cosplay, but there's a few issues here, so he'd really like this to go smoothly. It does not go smoothly. First, something smashes into them from outside, so they've got about 5 minutes minutes instead of an hour. Then Loki starts the "if I don't make it back" speech, only to disappear again, so now he can't prune himself. At least, not the way he needs to. Now, pretty much all they can do is just cross their fingers and hope that Loki makes it back in time. Then Loki reappears in the future, which he knows is the future because he recognizes the word skin that Mobius absent-mindedly wrote in dust on an old computer monitor, not that any of that really matters. Meanwhile, Mobius is getting into a big, bulky suit that will protect him from whatever raw time is doing outside, but if he doesn't make it back before the blast doors close, then the suit will wither away and he'll have all of his skin ripped off, which is honestly getting funnier the more they say it. It's like a Peter Griffin type of gag at this point. But wait, there's a crack in the suit's visor. He can't go out there now. So OB puts some duct tape over it, and just like that, he's good to go. Because it might let the air out of your suit, but fucking duct tape will keep all that raw time from getting in, right? I'd shit all over this, but goddamn, it actually was kind of funny. The actors made it work. I'm not made of stone. So Mobius goes outside, crosses a bridge out into this immense void of nothingness where infinite raw time is getting spun into physical time. On paper, this really shouldn't work, but the production team knew what they were doing, and there is some gravitas to this, believe it or not. He launches the science machine, then off in the future, Loki is looking for a big stick to prune himself with. Maybe it's a metaphor, maybe it isn't, who the hell knows at this point, when this gizmo that OB gave him lights up, meaning that it's time to start vigorously pruning himself, or else Mobius will have all of his skin ripped off. But then, instead of moving even faster to find a pruning stick, Loki thinks it's time to take it easy and suddenly starts walking very, very, very slowly toward the sound of a ringing telephone. They only have like a 30-second window here, so beats the hell out of me what he's doing. I mean, I don't know if I could prune myself in 30 seconds, but you could at least give it a shot, dude. They're out of time. OB has to close the blast doors. Mobius doesn't want to give up on his friend, but OB says there's nothing he can do for Loki now, so he tries to get back inside, but looks like he's not gonna make it. By all rights, this really should not work at all, but between the direction, music, and acting, somehow it does. The production really saved this sequence. Then, Loki finds the ringing phone, doesn't answer it, an elevator door next to the phone opens up, revealing Sylvie inside, then Loki gets pruned from behind, not like that. Or maybe it is, I don't fucking know. By someone we don't see. This entire scene was so fucking strange. What was the deal with the phone? Why was Loki moving so slowly? What were they even going for? No idea. But time spits out the newly pruned Loki in the present. He comes flying in, knocks into Mobius, pushing both of them back inside right before the blast doors close. So the day is saved. Loki will not be lost in time forever, and Mobius will not have all of his skin ripped off. Huzzahs for everyone! Then we see a TVA goon squad armed to the teeth getting sent to hunt down Sylvie, who is the person this was really all about apparently, and the episode ends with a stinger where Sylvie walks through a portal into Oklahoma in 1982, which we know is a branched alternate universe because there are no cousins humping each other within earshot. Then she walks into a McDonald's, because product placement, tries to order food wherein she has to specify no squirrels, no possums, and no rats, because you can't be too careful in McDonald's or Oklahoma. Then she sees that all the customers look really happy, so she wants to try everything. Or at least everything that doesn't have a face. But in an Oklahoma McDonald's, that's probably a crapshoot. Well, if you were hoping for a Loki Season 2 premiere that would get Marvel back on track after Phase 4 and the rough start to Phase 5, this wasn't it. Wasn't the worst thing their streaming shows have produced, but it wasn't what it needed to be either. Now, what helped it is that the show seems to have a really good team behind the scenes and in front of the camera, which covers for a lot of its faults. Luckily, they have good direction, good set pieces, good actors, and all that elevates this material a hell of a lot more than if it had been handled by the incompetent jackasses who made She-Hulk, for example. Without these things, this would have been a rough outing. Or rougher. Even as it is, there were problems here. A lot of the episode was either expositing how Season 1 ended, or explaining things that have already been explained an extra 3 or 4 times, while other things that really need to be explained don't get explained at all. A lot of scenes go on longer than they need to because of all the repetition, and there's an awful lot of talking while very little actually happens until the last 15 minutes or so. In less capable hands, this would be a death sentence. But what kind of saves it, again, is that they have good actors. Plenty of these scenes work when they otherwise wouldn't just because it's Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson carrying them. Just give those guys sheets of dialogue and they can make it entertaining. Ke Huy Quan was also very good. I liked him a lot. So the jokes may not have been the best on paper, but the actors got them to land, and when they had to shift into serious mode, that worked too. Also, the production was on point, so everything looked good. The director was pretty adept at building tension, so the whole temporal loom thing came off better than it probably had any right to. So basically, the whole episode gets a bad idea, good execution label slapped on it. The problem is all in the writing. Now, they are working hard to build up the threat of Kang, which is good, but we just saw that version of Kang get defeated and die, so a lot of this was just pissing in the wind. If they want that to work, they need to introduce a new variant of Kang pronto, make him the big threat, and then not kill him off right away. Also, why is Loki time-slipping? Beats me. Why do they keep insisting that it's impossible even though it isn't? I don't know. What the hell was going on when Loki was in the future at the end there? No idea. And everything and everyone is at the mercy of the plot right now, just reacting to whatever the plot throws at them. You can get away with that for a little while, but the characters have got to take over next week, or this is going to become a chore to follow really quickly. Speaking of which, the show is supposed to be about Loki, but right now it feels like it's about Sylvie. Now, I actually did like the Sylvie character more than most people did in season 1, but do you really think I don't see what's going on here? What she's doing is driving the narrative right now, and it shouldn't be that way because it's not her f***ing show. I was more forgiving of that last time because there were a lot of interesting ideas surrounding her, but don't push it. If you want Sylvie to be the shit stirrer that f***s everything up, which Loki then has to fix, that's one thing, but the show is about Loki. He needs to be the one driving the bus. But frankly, I'm not sure how much that even matters, because there's a very strong possibility that this narrative is about to get so f***ing confusing. You can see it happening already. When you're retconning very important past continuity details like how time travel works just so your story can happen, you're not on the right track. And with Sylvie landing not just in an alternate timeline, but the past of an alternate timeline, meaning that we're doing time travel and multiverse crap simultaneously, they're having a hard enough time just explaining the shit that's already happened. How the hell do they expect to keep all this straight? I have no idea. But one thing seems pretty clear right now. If this episode was a sign of things to come, I think the MCU's big multiverse plot going off the rails is all but inevitable. As time goes on, it's just getting more chaotic, more complicated. I'm not saying they can't pull it all together and make it work. I just don't think the writers they've got working for them right now are going to be able to do that. Weird start for Loki Season 2. I didn't hate it exactly, but this season promises to be a very bumpy ride. And how long will I be along for it? Well, as usual, that depends on the views. So if you want more, you know what to do. Thanks so much for watching, and while you're here, don't forget to ding that bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. The links are down there. And most importantly, the road to 50,000 subscribers is a perilous one, and I need your help to get there. So hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure you're still subscribed, all the YouTube things. That's all for now, but I'll be back with more soon. Take care, stay tuned. I'll see you next time.